Welcome, viewers, to the Daily Space Weather Show. I'm your host, Dan, a.k.a. Smash-O-Mash, coming at you once again from the Smash News Network, least busted name in news. These are 24-hour videos of the closest star. And let's add a little bit of additional data here. There we've got 94 plus 171 angstroms. And we have seen a little bit of an uptick in solar flare activity. It's mainly because of a setting region in the northwest, which would be your upper right, and a rising region in the northeast, which would be your upper left. There's a little closer look. That's 30 frames per second from SDO, the Solar Dynamics Observatory. And we are seeing another active region rising down there in the southeast. Let us know in the comments if you think it's a sunspot or not. We already know whether or not it's a sunspot. We'll let you know later in the video. So, in the meantime, drop us a comment and let us know what you think. That area in the northeast has caused a minor increase in the X-ray flux. And we'll show you some more data here in a moment. First, the past 48 hours from SDO. There's the past 2 days there, 94 angstroms by itself. And check it out, the surreal scene continues in Iceland. And like we said yesterday, there is a bit of a decline going on here in the lava flow. The lava output here now declining. It looks like the Reykjanes Peninsula eruption of March and April 2024 is slowly coming to a halt. But in the meantime, some spectacular live imagery there for you. Check it out if you like. It's located at livefromiceland.com's webcams. You can also find a new lava flow map showing lava flow thickness. Sakurajima is also erupting, also Ibu, Semaru, Merapi, Dukono, Ahi. Ahi is actually downgraded to unassigned, although Atka also subsided there. Atka subsided. Popocatépetl continues to explode. Fuego exploding. Nevado de Ruiz exploding. And not sure about Sabancaya. Don't assume it isn't erupting and decide to pole vault the caldera. That could be unhealthful, so that would be bad advice. So we won't suggest that you ought to go out and pole vault any caldera, folks. So just keep that in mind when making your track and field training preparations. Try not to pole vault volcanic calderae. Next, moving on to earthquakes. And we're at moderate levels right now, according to that convenient 90-day bar graph. And what do we have over the past 24 hours? Well, we'll call the 5 and greater magnitude quakes out. And we have only a couple of them there, such as a 5.0 in China. It's a foreshock, followed by a 5.4. Also Bolivia. Bolivia, source of raw materials for the cocaine trade. That 5.0 was at 15:33 Universal Time this afternoon, and those are the only quakes of a 5 and greater magnitude. The 10.7 centimeter radio flux now at 124 solar flux units, which I think is the same number as yesterday. There is the convenient 1-year chart of the radio flux depicted by the black line. The red line is the sunspot number. And the Space Weather Enthusiast dashboard is not forecasting any geomagnetic storms. That would be NOAA's forecast for space weather. And as far as ESA's forecast goes, well, we ain't got one, I don't think. Let's see if that loads, but there's NOAA's Enlil spiral. And as you can see, not very exciting in the realm of space weather. ESA's new web portal not loading today. So let's move on to Earth's magnetic moment from space. So there are the past 4 hours. And it's geomagnetically calm conditions, so take your downtime to press the like button. And if you're new to the channel, press subscribe. Just get the world's most comprehensive daily space weather content delivered straight to your YouTube subscription feed. Here are the past 4 hours of Earth's magnetic moment from the ground level. And again, things are geomagnetically calm. We'll talk more about things like the solar wind here in a moment. We'll cover a lot of relevant space weather data points. So that's what's going on in the ground level. KP index is KP 2.33. 2.33 is the average of global geomagnetism. It is calm. Solar wind is next. The ACE showing very diffuse readings there. Less than 2/10 of a proton per cubic centimeter. And a solar wind velocity of 424 kilometers per second. Not very exciting. The Discover, also not very exciting, although a much denser solar wind there at 10.4 protons per cubic centimeter. Solar wind velocity here at similar speeds, 452 kilometers per second from the Discover. Next are GOES geosynchronous satellites. And those Earth observation satellites there showing fairly smooth few days. In fact, it's been fairly smooth for the past week. No major geomagnetic storms have struck. Now, as far as Earth's magnetic sector in the heliosphere, is a South Pole sector. Earth has snapped into a South Pole magnetic sector, folks. So yeah, check it out. There's the last image, a little South Pole sector here. So we're going to see some magnetic instability over the coming days. So yeah, we may be switching back and forth from North and South Pole oriented magnetic heliosphere sectors repeatedly over the next 2 to 4 days. So you can see some turbulence happening over there and some switches from North and South Pole and vice versa. Here's our line of sight field plot. Fantastic set of data there for the past 4 days depicting the solar B field in blue, the photosphere magnetism in grayscale, and the solar polar fields in green for north and red for south. Which brings us to coronal holes. We've got some South Pole oriented ones here rotating in, evaporating, and then reforming. But they're pretty small. They're just kind of right in the Earth-facing zone right now. So yeah, Earth is in South Pole-oriented magnetic sector. And here are coronal holes for the past 24 hours. The past 48 hours, I should say. Courtesy of the Solar Dynamics Observatory, the 211 angstroms wavelength, part of the AIA instrument, one of the many species of ionized iron covered by the SDO. So that's what's going on. Sunspot number here is at about 59, 58, 59, something like that. Very low sunspot number. Don't expect that to continue. Likelihood of a large solar flare isn't really very high, although the most likely place, in my opinion, is now up there in the northeast. So your upper left is the most likely spot for a large solar flare here at the moment. Now, we're unable to really see a lot of magnetic complexity with that sunspot group, but I suspect that there is a sunspot hiding back there behind that northeastern limb. So we don't see it yet. You may be wondering if there's a sunspot down here in the southeast, right in this area. And again, we do have the answer for you there. You might not be able to see it from this next view, so let's just see if we can see it. I'm not actually sure if there's going to be a sunspot showing up there or not. But we've had quite modest activity here. I think I may be seeing some growth happening there in the northeast, though. So it looks like maybe some action kicking up there in the northeast. That whole quadrant up there is looking like it may be getting a little bit more active. So that's the story from the Smash News Network, least busted name in news, and I'm sticking to it because, well, I wrote it, so I guess that makes sense. Next, moving on to energetic particles and solar flares. We ain't got no energetic particles. The proton flux is flatlined. And the X-ray flux, like I said, a modest uptick in the X-ray flux. It has to do with a setting active region in the west and a rising active region in the east. So there are our GOES X-ray data. Keep in mind, folks, solar flares cannot be measured from the surface, at least not in terms of their X-ray output, because X-rays don't make it to the surface. They're filtered out by the time they reach the upper stratosphere. So instead, we use the GOES to measure the X-ray flux. Next is our solar system map. Oh, wait a minute. First things first. Let's get to... There's our 131 angstroms. Again, most likely spot for a large solar flare right now would be up in that northeastern limb. Behind the limb, I think there is still a sunspot hiding back there. That would be your upper left. And we call that side the northeast because, well, north is, well, closer to the pole, closer to that polar region, but that's called the east because that's where space weather rises. In other words, sunspots set over on this side and they rise over on the far side. That's why they're called the east and west. So that's what's going on with that, and we'll get to coronal mass ejections here in a minute, but first, our solar system forecast. So Mercury's on this lonely side of the solar system, but only Mercury and Earth at the moment. Let's advance this 1 week. Here's where things will be on April 17th. We hope you've got your taxes filed by that time. And next, a star chart of what's going on overhead, Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania. So there you go. That's what's going on right now. From skyandtelescope.org. Venus, Mercury, the Sun, the Moon, Jupiter, all up there in the sky right now, although obscured, except for the Sun, by daylight. You might be able to see a little sliver of a moon up there, just on the opposite side of the ecliptic from Jupiter. Next, our astronomy photo of the day. And it's another eclipse photo. And there is Venus showing up in the eclipse photo. That one is taken from Arkansas, near Mount Nebo. Mount Nebo, Arkansas. Next, CMEs. And I haven't analyzed CMEs yet, so let me do that while I make the video. That sounds efficient. And there have been some. Are they earthly directed? Well, the answer is I do not think so. But we'll look at more data anyway, just to make certain. So some CMEs out of there, coming out of the east, both the northeast and southeast. Again, we don't anticipate those to be earthly directed based on the available coronagraph data. We'll also show stereo A, which we've paused on today. Actually, that's late yesterday. So there's one little CME puff out of the southeast. And does the difference data have a little bit more? So two little puffs out of the southeast. Those do not have earthly directed components. Next, our custom coronagraph imagery. That's pretty sweet, right? I know, you can't see it yet. There we go. Another 24-hour video syncing the LASCO C3 in blue, the C2 in red, and the SDO 304 angstroms wavelength. There is a calibration maneuver in there that's making it look a little funky. Now we've included the 193 angstrom 60-minute running difference imagery along with the 304 angstroms SDO. There's a little closer look. And before we get to filaments, there's an even closer look. Filaments. They often turn into coronal mass ejections when they don't collapse or become unstable and move around. Sometimes they blast off, becoming major geomagnetic storms. So, fingers crossed for that. But in the meantime, press the like button. Otherwise, we may not be able to continue to create content, the world's most comprehensive daily space weather content. By the way, we have named a filament. There are filaments from Cerro Tololo, Chile. And you can see two prominences there rising in the east, probably associated with sunspots that may or may not yet be in view from Earth's perspective. So one of those filaments is quite unstable. It's this one right here to the southwest of that sunspot group. And if you want to name filaments after living people, do it over at x.com/Smashomash. Just follow the hashtag name that filament. Shout out to Wild Alchemical Spirit, one of our top-notch commenters. x.com/Smashomash. Just follow the hashtag name that filament. America's favorite pastime. Name that filament. Before we get to bonus features, here are the past couple of hours. From the Goes 16 SUVI. Looking at the extreme ultraviolet emissions from ionized helium in the lower corona and upper chromosphere. And let's move on to bonus features. Satellite charging hazards are very minor. Only some minor surface charging hazards there over the northern Indian Ocean and the Southeast Asia. Goes electron flux here in a nominal range as well. Nothing too exciting to report on there. There's the past 1 year of electron flux. There's the NOAA forecast, expecting some variations coming in the coming days. I have no reason to argue or agree with that. I'm indifferent. Next, the layer where it's measured. Here come the ionosondes. There's the raw vibrational frequency there of that diffuse gas. At 300 kilometers of altitude, the location of the F layer of the ionosphere. The bridge between Earth and space. Here's anomaly in megahertz from a 30-day median. At the bridge between Earth and space. Space, a frontier. These are the voyages of the Smash News Network, least busted name in news. Our continuing mission to bring you non-propaganda-filled space weather content, meteorology showing actual data and doing actual forecasting and real reports instead of reading other organizations' headlines. That's how you become the least busted name in news. By putting out original content that isn't full of shite and bollocks. Many channels that do space weather have been criticized for their promotion of absolute and utter bollocks, otherwise known as pseudoscience. Pseudoscience, stuff that isn't science but is worded to sound like it by confident charlatans or confident-sounding charlatans. Now, it's time to get back to my promise. That is a sunspot down there. I can already see the umbra. It's right there. So at least a couple more sunspots forming down there. And I suspect there are some up there as well behind this plage. So also some new sunspots forming up here in this northeastern quadrant, like I said earlier. Expecting an uptick in sunspot number tomorrow. And let's move to meteorology. Starting with the world's lowest pressure. Check out this low. This low is so low that it extends all the way up to Papua New Guinea, along the eastern shores of Australia there, connected to this Southern Ocean low. That is the world's lowest pressure, folks. And it is some stormy, nasty, wicked seas in autumn in the Southern Ocean. So that's what's up. And here come our jet streams and surface winds. For planet Earth, jet streams of the east are looking like that. Surface winds of the east like this. Central world. Jet streams, Europe, Africa, and the Middle East. Western world. And the surface winds over on this side of the planet. Next, satellite imagery. Ah, yes. The visible satellite. It's so good. I mean, you can still view clouds and fog at nighttime, but nothing beats the visible satellite, folks. I mean, well, in some ways the water vapor map does, but for an entirely different reason. That's just the picturesque beauty of planet Earth. And by the way, if you don't think I'm an environmentalist, you don't know me very well. And if you're now worried that I don't fit into whatever box you have me placed in, that'll be a problem for you. You know why? Because they don't make that box. People have a nuanced stance on things, folks, so don't assume that people believe the hype, the whatever. Don't assume that people believe whatever it is you want them to believe, because some of the stuff is pretty complex. I'll just say that. So this is our rain forecast, rain accumulation for the next 3 days. And I would note the differences between the Euro and GFS model. So here's the Euro model. This is the GFS model, which has got everything a little bit shifted to the northeast there. Once again, there's the Euro model and the GFS model. Back to the Euro, back to the GFS, and back to the Euro. Again, heavy rains coming, like we've been saying for days, to the Gulf states. Also some severe thunderstorm watches, warnings, tornado watches, warnings, severe thunderstorms. You get the idea. Tornado watches. It's a bunch of... What the hell? All right. Anyway, I'm going to scroll up and I'm going to scroll back down and show you the freaking key, and then I'm going to scroll back up again, and I'm not going to break any electronics. How about that? Does that sound like a plan? Okay, because that's the plan. So we hope you like it, and if it made you mad, definitely leave us a comment and let us know how mad you are about this coherent plan. Here comes some forecasts. First, pressure and precipitation for the next 72 hours. It's the GFS model. Okay. That low is going to make a turn to the north. Next, total accumulated precipitation. GFS 72-hour model. Precipitation total shown here in inches. And last but not least, the temperature anomaly forecast for the 72-hour GFS model in degrees Celsius. So that's what's going on. That's your weather forecasts for the lower 48. Those are your weather forecasts for the lower 48. And if you enjoy the content, don't forget to press the like button. Press like, lest thy soul be cast into an ever-deepening and darkening abyss of lame, twat-like YouTube content and silly, ridiculous propaganda not based on anything in reality and completely unable to forecast anything in the future of reality. Press like if you're new to the channel. Press subscribe. Or don't. And if you don't, that's on you. Next, lightning. And check it out. We had some pretty bonkers lightning around them there Gulf states. And this thing is more frozen than molasses in January, folks. So, could you play the loop, please? I guess the answer is no. So we'll move on to a real-time lightning map and check it out around Mobile and Gulfport and Pensacola. Some pretty significant thunder cells there. The hell? I could have sworn I was zoomed in far enough to show the freaking sound waves. I don't know. It's pissing me off, so I'm just going to move on to Doppler radar. So there are the storms there. They're moving solidly to the northeast. We'll briefly show the full 50-state view, as there is some precipitation happening in Alaska. But we'll focus on the lower 48 view. So there is Doppler radar. There is visible satellite for the lower 48. There is water vapor. You can see there's an impulse of dry, massive air, giving that moisture a massive pressure gradient at its southwestern edge and a bit of an impulse to move itself to the northeast. Here's your recap. Vertical motion of the air column shown by Doppler radar systems. And the rain missed us in Lehigh Valley today. Once again, the visible satellite, you can see a low starting to form there over East Texas. You can see the rotation starting to happen there, that characteristic counterclockwise rotation associated with northern hemisphere low pressure zones. There's the water vapor map. That should clear things up. If your Doppler is unclear, try the water vapor map. It will clarify things for you. And we hope this video clarified things for you. And we hope you're not believing utter nonsense about space weather. So, yeah, once again, apocalypse canceled. Canceled. Where is it? It was supposed I thought 2 days ago the world was supposed to end, and yet we're still here. Maybe we just didn't get the memo. But in any case, until tomorrow, may that solar wind be at your back. I'm going back to the bunker. Whoa!